There is a house that heats itself. No furnace, no gas line, no electric bill. It stays 70 degrees in the dead of winter and cool through the worst of summer using nothing but sunlight and stone. For 2,000 years, civilizations built homes that needed no heating system. The Romans heated bathhouses the size of football fields with a single fire. The Persians kept ice frozen in the middle of the desert. And in 1972, an architect in New Mexico built a home from dirt and old tires that has not needed a single dollar of heating or cooling in over 50 years. Then, the energy industry buried it. We did not stop building self-heating homes because they failed. We stopped because a house that heats itself is a house that cannot be built. A home that needs no furnace is a furnace that cannot be sold. And a family that owes nothing for warmth is a family that cannot be controlled. This is the story of the house that needs no fuel, the building method that outlasted every empire that used it, and the industry that spent billions making sure you never learned how it works. Welcome to Lost Build Archives. Before we open this archive, if these forgotten techniques matter to you, the best way to preserve this knowledge is simple. Subscribe, hit the bell, and share these archives with those who need to remember what we forgot. The archive opens on the sunlit slopes of Athens, roughly 500 years before the birth of Christ. A philosopher named Socrates stands before his students and describes the perfect house. Build it facing south, he says. In winter, the sun hangs low and pours through the front rooms, warming the floors and walls. In summer, the sun climbs high overhead and the roof blocks its heat. The house stays warm when you need warmth. It stays cool when you need shade. No fire required. His student Xenophon records the lesson in a text called Memorabilia. It is the oldest surviving document on passive solar design, 2,500 years old, and it still works perfectly today. But the Greeks were only the beginning. 500 years later, the Romans turned sunlight and stone into an engineering masterpiece. They called it the Hypocausts. Picture this. A stone floor raised 2 feet on hundreds of small brick pillars called pilae. A fire burns at one end of the building. Hot air rushes beneath the raised floor, snaking through channels in the walls called tubuli. The stone absorbs that heat for hours. The fire dies. The floor stays warm. In 216 AD, Emperor Caracalla opens the greatest bathhouse Rome has ever seen. The Baths of Caracalla cover 27 acres. They hold 1,600 bathers at once. The heated rooms span more than 10,000 square feet. And the entire complex is warmed by a single fire feeding hot air beneath stone floors and through hollow walls. The thermal mass of that stone held heat long after the flames went out. Bathers walked on warm floors while snow fell on Rome. Meanwhile, in Persia, builders solved the opposite problem. They kept ice frozen in the desert. They built Yakhchals, domed structures with walls 6 feet thick made of packed earth mixed with lime, sand, clay, goat hair, egg whites, and ash. A recipe passed down through generations. The walls absorbed the brutal desert heat during the day and radiated it outward at night. Underground chambers stayed so cold that ice harvested in winter lasted through summer, in a land where daytime temperatures reached 120 degrees. The Yakhchal at Abarku, Iran, still stands. It is over 2,000 years old. No electricity, no refrigerant, just physics, earth, and knowledge we chose to forget. Researchers measured the interior. When the desert outside reached 110 degrees, the chamber inside held steady near 40 degrees. A temperature difference of 70 degrees, maintained by nothing but wall thickness and geometry. By the Middle Ages, the principle had spread across Europe. Longhouses with stone walls 3 feet thick stayed warm through brutal winters. The walls worked as thermal batteries, absorbing heat from hearth fires during the day and releasing it slowly through the night. In 1881, an American scholar named Edward Morse traveled to Japan and published the first modern study of passive solar heating. He documented how Japanese houses used south-facing paper screens and dark earthen floors to capture and hold the sun's warmth. The knowledge was everywhere. Every culture that built with mass and oriented toward the sun discovered the same truth. No insulation, no ductwork, just mass. Dense material doing what dense material does, holding energy and letting it go on its own schedule. The principle is so simple, it feels like a secret. Dense materials absorb heat: stone, earth, concrete, and water. They soak up thermal energy when the sun shines or a fire burns, and they release it slowly when the air cools. A 12-inch rammed earth wall stores enough heat to keep a room comfortable for 12 hours after the sun goes down. That is the entire principle. Thermal mass plus solar orientation equals a home that regulates its own temperature. In 1956, a French engineer named Felix Trombe and architect Jacques Michel turned this ancient knowledge into a modern system. They built a wall. Dark-colored masonry, 8 to 16 inches thick, placed just 1 inch behind a pane of glass on the south side of a building. Sunlight passes through the glass and strikes the dark wall. The wall absorbs that heat all day. By evening, the stored energy radiates through the wall into the living space. Vents at the top and bottom of the wall create natural convection. Warm air rises through the top vent into the room. Cool air is drawn in through the bottom vent to be heated again. No fans, no pumps, no electricity. A Trombe wall can provide 60 to 75% of a home's heating needs in the right climate. The sun does the work. The wall does the rest. Then in 1972, an architect named Mike Reynolds drove into the desert outside Taos, New Mexico, and started building something the construction industry would spend the next 50 years trying to stop. He called them Earthships. Reynolds packed old tires with rammed earth, stacking them like bricks to create walls 3 feet thick, pure thermal mass. He oriented every home to face south, with a greenhouse along the front wall to capture winter sun. The north, east, and west walls were bermed into the earth, insulated by the ground itself. The results were staggering. Inside an Earthship in Taos, where outside temperatures swing from -10 to over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, the interior stays between 65 and 75 degrees. Year-round, no furnace, no air conditioner, no gas line, no electric heater, zero energy bills. For over 50 years, these homes have heated and cooled themselves using nothing but the sun and the earth beneath them. The average American household spends $2,000 a year on heating and cooling. Over a 30-year mortgage, that is more than $60,000 just to stay comfortable inside walls that were never designed to hold heat. Passive solar homes use 50 to 80% less energy than conventional construction. The Department of Energy confirmed this. The numbers are not disputed, they are simply ignored. Then, after 1945, something changed. The war ended. America needed houses, millions of them, fast. Developers bought open land and subdivided it into lots. The lots were oriented for maximum density and road access, not for the sun. A house facing east sold for the same price as a house facing south. Builders did not care which way the windows pointed because the natural gas was cheap. The furnace was cheaper. Install a forced air system, hook up a gas line, and send the homeowner a bill every month for the rest of their life. The numbers tell the real story. The global heating, ventilation, and air conditioning industry is worth $240 billion a year. The United States residential natural gas heating market alone exceeds $60 billion annually. Every home built with passive solar is one fewer furnace sold, one fewer air conditioning unit installed, zero monthly revenue from a family that owes nothing for warmth. A house that heats itself is not just an engineering choice. It is a threat to one of the largest industries on Earth. Building codes became the weapon. Codes written for conventional HVAC systems required specific ductwork, specific mechanical ventilation, and specific heating capacity. Passive solar homes did not fit the forms. They did not need ducts, they did not need furnaces, but the codes required them anyway. Mike Reynolds fought building departments in New Mexico for decades. He was denied permits. He was told his Earthships did not meet code, not because they were unsafe, but because the codes had no category for a home that did not need a heating system. It took until 2007 for New Mexico to pass the Sustainable Development Testing Sites Act, a special law just to allow Reynolds to legally build the homes he had been building for 35 years, and the financial system buried it deeper. Mortgage lenders and real estate appraisers value homes by square footage, countertops, and finishes, not by energy performance. An Earthship that costs nothing to heat appraises for less than a conventional home with granite countertops and a $400 monthly energy bill. The system rewards dependency and punishes self-sufficiency. A home that needs nothing is worth nothing on paper. A home that needs everything is worth a fortune in recurring revenue. The pattern is deliberate. In 1961, architects in Wallasey, England built a school heated almost entirely by passive solar design. South-facing windows, thermal mass walls, and careful ventilation. The building still functions today, more than 60 years later, using a fraction of the energy of schools built beside it. The proof was standing in plain sight. But by the 1980s, oil prices had dropped again. Gas was cheap. The industry told homeowners to stop worrying about efficiency and start enjoying comfort that arrived through a meter, comfort with a monthly invoice. The brief passion for passive solar that had sparked during the 1970s oil crisis was quietly extinguished, not by failure, but by falling fuel prices and rising industry influence. The knowledge was not lost. It was buried under cheap gas and expensive advertising. But the physics refused to be forgotten. In 1991, a physicist named Wolfgang Feist built a home in Darmstadt, Germany called Kranichstein. It was the first certified passive house, a building designed to need almost no active heating or cooling. Feist founded the Passive House Institute in 1996 and created a rigorous scientific standard proving that homes could maintain comfortable temperatures using passive principles alone. Today, more than 60,000 certified passive houses stand worldwide. The data is overwhelming. These homes use up to 90% less energy than conventional buildings. Not a theory, not a projection. Measured, verified, documented across thousands of structures in dozens of climates. The University of Bath published research showing that rammed earth walls outperform insulated timber frame walls for temperature stability. The walls hold heat longer, release it more evenly, and buffer temperature swings that conventional insulation cannot handle. In 2023, the United Kingdom Building Research Establishment recommended thermal mass as a key strategy for climate adaptation. The science is not new. It is 2,500 years old. The scientists simply confirmed what Socrates described, what Roman engineers perfected, what Persian builders mastered, and what Mike Reynolds proved in the desert. A few builders refuse to forget. Reynolds has now constructed more than 3,000 Earthships across the globe. Not just in the New Mexico desert, but in Haiti after the earthquake, in Puerto Rico after the hurricane, and in Sierra Leone. In communities where the power grid is a fantasy and monthly energy bills are impossible. These homes heat themselves, collect their own water, grow food in their own greenhouses, and treat their own sewage. Complete independence. No utility bills. No grid dependency. No monthly payment to anyone. The passive house movement is growing exponentially in Europe and North America. The Department of Energy runs the Solar Decathlon, a competition where university teams design and build passive solar homes. A growing community of homesteaders, builders, and do-it-yourself, families are constructing Trombe walls, earth-bermed homes, and passive solar greenhouses with their own hands. A Trombe wall can be added to an existing home for a few $100s in materials, south-facing glass, a dark masonry wall, and vents. No contractor required. No permit in most jurisdictions. No monthly bill ever again. We did not lose the self-heating house. We were told to forget it. An industry worth $240 billion a year does not allow alternatives to exist in public memory. A home that needs no energy cannot generate shareholder value. A family that heats with sunlight cannot be invoiced. So the codes were written to exclude it. The appraisals were designed to devalue it. The builders were denied permits to construct it. And the knowledge was buried, not in the ground, but in plain sight, waiting. Socrates described it 2,500 years ago. Build facing south, let the sun in when you need it, and block it when you do not. The Romans proved it could heat a city. The Persians proved it could freeze water in the desert. Felix Trombe proved it could heat a modern home. Mike Reynolds proved it could replace every utility bill you have ever paid. The physics has not changed. The sun still rises. Stone still holds heat. Earth still insulates. The only thing that changed is who profits when you stay cold. Every home you have ever lived in was designed to need something you have to buy. That is not an accident. It is a business model. But the archive is open now. The knowledge is here. 3 feet of earth and a south-facing window. That is all it takes to build a house that heats itself forever. If this archive opened something for you, subscribe to Lost Build Archives and hit the bell. Every like and every share preserves what they tried to erase. The next archive opens soon.